First up on the show, well, amid efforts to convince Israel to change its war strategy in Gaza, the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin arrived in Israel for talks with Israeli leaders. Lloyd Austin is pushing for a transition to a more limited, focused conflict. On Monday, he met Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The meeting comes on the heels of the U.S. pushing Israel to de-escalate and limit its raids, specifically to target Hamas. Meanwhile, Egypt's security sources have revealed that both Israel and Hamas are open to a potential ceasefire agreement, including the release of hostages held by Hamas. However, Hamas remains steadfast on its conditions that Israeli forces need to withdraw to predetermined areas before it releases any more hostages. As the diplomatic flurry continues, the UN Security Council will vote on yet another draft resolution demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution will be tabled later on Monday, that's today, amid growing calls for an urgent and sustainable ceasefire and hostilities to allow safe and unhindered humanitarian access in the Gaza Strip. In the continuing Israeli offensive in Gaza, as many as 110 Palestinians were reportedly killed on Sunday after strikes on the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza. The strikes hit a residential block belonging to the Al-Barsh and Al-Awan families in the town. Palestinians' health ministry claimed that women and children were among the dead and dozens are still missing. Israeli forces also conducted strikes at the Kamal Alwan hospital in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza. Residents found themselves in chaotic scenes as distressed civilians said they had nowhere to go. One girl has been killed in an explosion that struck the Mubarak hospital in the city of Khan Yunis. Several others were injured in the blast. Meanwhile, Israel continues to strike positions in Khan Yunis after Palestinians from northern Gaza fled there in the early weeks of the conflict. The current Israeli operations have triggered fears of a potential escalation in the conflict as skirmishes between Israel and Lebanon-based Hezbollah continue to rise. Israel has stated that Hezbollah has the potential to drag Lebanon into an unnecessary war.
Hezbollah, a proxy of Iran, is dragging Lebanon into an unnecessary war that would have devastating consequences for the people of Lebanon. This is a war that they do not deserve.
And for the very latest on the Israel-Hamas war and what is Lloyd Austin's visit and what is the meaning of that coming this week, I'm now being joined by Jody Cohen.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in Israel on Monday for meetings. He's meeting his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant, as well as the Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi and others. They're going to be discussing a timetable moving from a high-intensity level of fighting in the war to what the U.S. would like to see as lower-level fighting. They're also likely to be discussing a new maritime protection agency that's reportedly going to be established to defend against the shipping attacks we've seen from the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. Now, this comes at the same time as the UN Security Council is going to be voting on a new resolution that is going to be discussing a ceasefire. The US has been against a ceasefire because they say that would leave Hamas as a threat to Israel, because Hamas have said that they would want to carry out more 7th of October-style massacres against Israelis again and again. Meanwhile, we're hearing about a potential new hostage release deal that's in the works. It's going to take time. It's unclear whether or not that will happen, but according to reports, Israel and Hamas are ready to start negotiating a new deal to release the roughly 130 Israeli hostages that are still held captive in Gaza. This is Jody Cohen for WION World is One.